Hey there, everyone. I'm Errol Barnett.
And I'm Lana Zach. We are following breaking news. A judge is considering whether to delay the start of Donald Trump's hush money criminal trial in New York City. The Manhattan DA's office says it is not opposed to a 30-day delay in light of some newly submitted evidence.
Now, Trump's lawyers are seeking a 90-day delay or a complete dismissal. They claim violations took place in the discovery process, and this comes as we await decisions in Trump's other cases. In Florida, a judge is weighing whether to dismiss Trump's classified documents case. In Georgia, we're awaiting a decision on whether Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis should be taken off the election interference case.
I want to bring in now Jessica Levinson to give us some analysis. She's a CBS News legal contributor and a professor at Loyola Law School. She's also been with us all day long covering this and every other case that's been top of the headline. So talk to us, Jessica, about this delay and what it means.
In the New York case, well, now we have more information from last time we spoke, and that's the fact that this delay is apparently caused by the federal prosecutor's office turning over tranches of new documents that the district attorney, the state prosecutor, had asked for, apparently for not just months, but upwards of a year. And so what the Trump team has asked for, and we now know, was 3 months, 90 days of a delay. And as we've been talking about over and over again, the Trump team wants to delay all of these cases as long as possible and to bump up against the election. The district attorney has said, even though he thinks this delay is largely of Trump's making, and you can hear the kind of anger in the district attorney's statements here, that they would not be opposed to a 30-day delay to ensure that everybody has time to look over these documents. It's now up to the state court judge who would be overseeing this trial, previously set to begin on March 25th, to determine how long, if any, there will be in terms of delaying that trial date.
So there's some jockeying on the New York civil fraud trial. That's hush money case. Now I want to pivot to the Florida motions to dismiss the classified documents case. There are two main legal arguments being made down there in Florida. What is Judge Cannon considering in her decision on whether or not to dismiss that case?
So a motion to dismiss, and there are two pending before Judge Cannon that she heard today, are really asking the judge trash this particular indictment because there's no set of facts that would allow the prosecution to win. And the two motions to dismiss that she heard about, one was concerning charges related to the Espionage Act. The other related to charges about the Presidential Records Act. And I think I probably don't do a good job if I don't highlight for the viewers that these are difficult legal arguments for the Trump team to make. And I'm not passing judgment on the strength of the case. But what I'm saying is when it comes to the Trump team saying that the Espionage Act is unconstitutionally vague, or that the Presidential Records Act simply can't apply to him or can't apply to him in a criminal case, these are, in my view, novel legal arguments. Now, the question here is that Judge Cannon has been a judge who's very amenable to the Trump team's legal arguments. And will she give them any of what they're asking for? Will she grant any of these two motions to dismiss? I think the reporting based on what happened in the courtroom indicates that she did have some skepticism about what Trump's team was arguing, again, both with respect to the Espionage Act and with respect to the Presidential Records Act.
All right, so we talked about the Manhattan hush money case, the Florida classified documents case. Also, we should talk about Georgia because that's the election interference case. And in that case, it took a strange turn with the district attorney being accused by Trump's attorneys and some of the co-defendants' attorneys of improper behavior. We're expecting a decision on that could come at any time. So, Jessica, what would it mean for that case if the district attorney is removed?
A delay. That would be a big delay. And we've talked about how the news out of Georgia so far this week was that the judge granted, in part, a motion to quash, which is really just the state equivalent of a motion to dismiss, for some of the charges, but that really should be viewed, in my opinion, more as a blip than as a blow. If the judge, and I don't expect that he will, but if he does say that Fani Willis is disqualified, we then have a council of, in Georgia, it's a council of prosecutors, essentially, I think also retired judges, who will look to determine who could take on this case. It would be a new prosecutor stepping in, and I think a new office, a new team as well. That would certainly cause a significant delay in the case. And of course, when we talk about delay, everything we have to talk about is what happened before the election or after the election, what happened before or after an inauguration.
Fascinating to think about. Meanwhile, recent polling in Georgia showing Donald Trump slightly ahead or within the margin of error of President Joe Biden. It's all about this election coming up as well. Jessica Levinson, thanks for walking us through all the legal layers of what's happening. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.